Discussion of cardiology multiple choice questions. Pick out the wrong statement about Mannheim fiber tachycardia. 1. Decremental conduction. 2. No delta waves. 3. Mannheim fiber tachycardia is always orthodromic. 4. Mannheim fibers do not conduct retrogradely. Correct answer 3. Mannheim fiber tachycardia is always orthodromic. Mannheim fibers do not conduct retrogradely. So Mannheim fiber tachycardia is always with wide QRS complexes, antidromic with LBBB pattern. It may be noted that in WPW syndrome, both narrow QRS orthodromic and wide QRS antidromic tachycardia are possible, as the pathway can conduct both androgradely and retrogradely. Kent bundle responsible for WPW syndrome does not have decremental conduction, which is a usual property of the AV node. Which of the following is not a usual component of Williams syndrome? 1. Hypercalcemia. 2. Elfin facies. 3. Valvar aortic stenosis. 4. Learning disability. Correct answer 3. Valvar aortic stenosis. Williams syndrome is associated with supravalvar aortic stenosis. All other conditions are seen in Williams syndrome. Leaflets displaced distally in Epstein's anomaly of tricuspid valve. 1. Septal and anterior. 2. Septal and posterior. 3. Anterior only. 4. Septal only. Correct answer septal and posterior. Usually we see the distal displacement of septal leaflet from apical four-chamber view. Posterior leaflet is also small and displaced. Anterior leaflet is enlarged and is sail-like. The closure sound of the large anterior leaflet is called sail sound. Similar Epstein's type of abnormality can be seen in about 70% of cases in the systemic atrioventricular valve in corrected transposition of great arteries. In CTGA, it is the tri-leaflet left AV valve. Chronaxy is 1. Minimum voltage which will capture the myocardium at any pulse width. 2. Pulse width needed for capture at twice the Rho-base voltage. 3. Slope of the electrogram. 4. Prevention of asystole due to oversensing. Correct answer 2. Pulse width needed for capture at twice the Rho-base voltage. Rho-base is the minimum voltage which will capture the myocardium at any pulse width. Slope of the electrogram is known as slew rate. Electrogram is the intracardiac signal picked up by the intracardiac electrode. Most common cause of single second heart sound. 1. Complete transposition of great arteries. 2. Pulmonary atresia. 3. Severe pulmonary stenosis. 4. Inaudibility of pulmonary component due to increased anteroposterior diameter of chest in older adults. Correct answer 4. Inaudibility of pulmonary component due to increased anteroposterior diameter of chest in older adults. Other causes are absence of pulmonary component or aortic component, absent P2 in pulmonary atresia, severe valvar pulmonary stenosis, absent A2 in aortic atresia, severe aortic stenosis. Reference Braunwald's heart disease, a textbook of cardiovascular medicine. The normal inspiratory splitting of second heart sound is due to delay in occurrence of pulmonary component because of 1. Increase in capacitance of pulmonary vascular bed. 2. Increase in capacitance of systemic vascular bed. 3. Decrease in capacitance of pulmonary vascular bed. 4. Decrease in capacitance of systemic vascular bed. Correct answer 1. Increase in capacitance of the pulmonary vascular bed. Capacitance of systemic vascular bed does not change significantly with respiration. A transient reduction in left ventricular volume during inspiration contributes slightly to the split in S2 by making aortic component slightly earlier. But the predominant component is the delay in P2. Increased capacitance of pulmonary vascular bed leads to a longer pulmonary hangout interval in inspiration. Hangout interval is the delay between the time of crossover of right ventricular and pulmonary artery pressure curves and the closure of pulmonary valve. Disadvantages of subcutaneous ICD include all of the following except 1. No bradycardia pacing. 2. No antitachycardia pacing. 3. No cardiac resynchronization therapy. 4. Higher chance of lead failure. Correct answer 4. Higher chance of lead failure. Subcutaneous ICDs have no leads. Leads are the Achilles heel of the pacing systems and ICDs. They tend to fail more often than the device itself and have more associated complications. It was to overcome this shortcoming that the subcutaneous ICDs were designed. But they suffer from the disadvantages mentioned in the other options. Very often, patients may have indication for pacemaker with intermittent bradyarrhythmias in addition to the ventricular tachyarrhythmias which the ICDs are designed to treat. Anti-tachycardia pacing is a function in conventional ICDs which can avoid shocks by terminating relatively slower ventricular tachycardias with overdrive pacing. Many patients requiring ICDs have left ventricular dysfunction and satisfy the criteria for a combo device with both ICD and CRT. This combo function is not feasible with subcutaneous ICD. Statin adverse effect or effects with confirmed causality. A. Myalgia or myopathy. B. Temporary elevation of alanine aminotransferase. C. New onset diabetes mellitus. D. All of the above. E. None of the above. Correct answer D. All of the above. Minimum mean gradient required to consider the diagnosis of severe tricuspid stenosis. A. 2 mm of mercury. B. 5 mm of mercury. C. 10 mm of mercury. D. 25 mm of mercury. Correct answer B. 5 mm of mercury. Tricuspid valve is the largest heart valve and works in the low pressure pulmonary circulation. Normal gradient is less than 2 mm of mercury. In contrast, mitral valve works in high pressure systemic circulation and normal gradients are higher. Intervention is indicated in symptomatic severe high gradient aortic stenosis with A. Mean gradient above 20 mm of mercury. B. Aortic velocity above 3 meters per second. C. Mean gradient above 20 mm of mercury and aortic velocity above 3 meters per second. D. Mean gradient 40 mm of mercury or more, or peak velocity 4 meters per second or more. Correct answer D. Mean gradient 40 mm of mercury or more, or peak velocity 4 meters per second or more. Severe aortic stenosis can also exist with a low mean gradient below 40 mm of mercury. In such cases, usually there is associated left ventricular dysfunction, so that left ventricle is unable to produce sufficient force to generate the high gradient. Before intervention is contemplated in such cases, left ventricular contractile reserve should be documented as improvement in stroke volume with dobutamine infusion. Pseudo-severe aortic stenosis can also be there when the measured valve area is low because of low cardiac output, which prevents proper opening of the valve leaflets due to low stroke volume. In that case, the measured valve area increases above 1 square centimeter with dobutamine infusion. Most common cause of acute severe aortic regurgitation. A. Aortic dissection. B. Infective endocarditis. C. Rheumatic fever. D. Myocardial infarction. Correct answer B. Infective endocarditis. Though acute rheumatic fever can produce aortic regurgitation, usually mitral regurgitation is the dominant lesion in acute rheumatic carditis. Aortic dissection can cause acute aortic regurgitation if the dissection flap reaches the level of the aortic valve. Myocardial infarction can cause acute mitral regurgitation if a papillary muscle is severely ischemic or ruptures, but not aortic regurgitation. Most common cause of chronic aortic regurgitation in the Western world is degenerative disease of bicuspid or trileaflet aortic valve. In developing countries, rheumatic fever is still an important cause for chronic aortic regurgitation. In which of the following conditions non-vitamin K antagonist oral anticoagulants should not be used? A. Aortic regurgitation with AF. B. Aortic bioprosthesis implanted 6 months back with AF. C. Mechanical prosthetic valve with AF. D. Mitral regurgitation with AF. Correct answer C. Mechanical prosthetic valve with AF. Subgroup analysis of certain clinical trials support the use of rivaroxaban, apixaban, dabigatran and edoxaban in patients with aortic stenosis, aortic regurgitation or mitral regurgitation having AF. NOACs can also be used in aortic bioprosthesis with AF if the valve was implanted more than 3 months back. NOACs are better avoided in those with moderate or severe mitral stenosis and AF in view of high thromboembolic risk. NOACs should not be used in those with mechanical prosthetic valves. A person was resuscitated from cardiac arrest. His temperature was 37 degrees centigrade and serum potassium was 4.5 milliequivalents per liter. ECG showed an abnormal wave at the end of the QRS complex. He is likely to have A. Hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, B. Long QT syndrome, C. Arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia, D. Acute myocardial infarction. Correct answer C. Arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia. The wave at the end of the QRS is likely to be epsilon wave. It is sometimes called post-excitation by analogy with the delta wave seen at the beginning of the QRS in pre-excitation. Hypothermia, hypokalemia and hyperkalemia can cause cardiac arrest, which are excluded from the data given. Osborn wave in hypothermia is also seen at the end of the QRS complex. Hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy would show left ventricular hypertrophy with strain pattern and sometimes giant T wave inversions. Long QT syndrome would not affect the QRS complex. Acute myocardial infarction should have shown other features on the ECG. Other possibilities to be considered are the J-wave syndromes like the malignant variety of early repolarization syndrome. Descending aortic flow reversal can be noted in A. Aortic regurgitation, B. Rupture of sinus of Valsalva into right ventricle, C. Patent ductus arteriosus, D. All of the above, E. None of the above. Correct answer D. All of the above. It may be noted that transient descending thoracic aortic flow reversal may be detectable by Doppler echo without any of these conditions. When the aortic wall is stiff as in hypertensives with atherosclerosis, transient flow reversal is thought to be one mechanism for cerebral embolism from aortic plaques beyond the origin of cerebral vessels. In severe aortic regurgitation, it is a pan-diastolic flow reversal with end-diastolic velocity more than 20 cm per second. It is taken as an indirect evidence of severe aortic regurgitation on echocardiography. Pressure half time less than 200 meter per second is indicative of A. Mild AR, B. Moderate AR, C. Severe AR, D. No relation to severity of AR. Correct answer C. Severe AR. Other echocardiographic features of severe AR would be large regurgitant jets in case of a central jet, dense CW signal of the regurgitant jet, hollow diastolic flow reversal in descending aorta with an end diastolic velocity above 20 cm per second, regurgitant volume of 60 ml or more, effective regurgitant orifice area of 30 square millimeter or more, and a dilated left ventricle. Other conditions which can shorten the pressure half time of aortic regurgitation jet are 1. Increase in left ventricular diastolic pressure, 2. Vasodilator therapy, 3. Dilated and compliant aorta. Pressure half time can be lengthened in chronic aortic regurgitation. Wide descent in the jugular venous pulse represents A. Atrial contraction, B. Atrial emptying in early diastole, C. Atrial relaxation and displacement of the tricuspid valve ring towards the apex, D. None of the above. Correct answer atrial emptying in early diastole. Atrial contraction produces the A wave. Atrial relaxation and displacement of the tricuspid valve ring towards the apex causes the X descent. Early diastolic murmur well heard along the right sternal border. A. Pulmonary regurgitation, B. Mitral stenosis, C. Aortic regurgitation with dilated aorta, D. Tricuspid stenosis. Correct answer C. Aortic regurgitation with dilated aorta. Pulmonary regurgitation produces early diastolic murmur in the pulmonary area and along left sternal border. Mitral stenosis produces mid-diastolic murmur in mitral area and tricuspid stenosis produces mid-diastolic murmur in tricuspid area. Aortic regurgitation produces early diastolic murmur heard in aortic area and secondary aortic area along the left sternal border. But if the aorta is dilated as in annulo-aortic ectasia, early diastolic murmur will be well heard along the right sternal border as the dilated ascending aorta reaches that region. In earlier era, syphilitic aortitis also could be seen with dilated ascending aorta and aortic regurgitation. Cardiac murmurs are best timed in relation to the A. Carotid pulse, B. Brachial pulse, C. Radial pulse, D. Femoral pulse. Correct answer A. Carotid pulse. Cardiac auscultatory events are best timed in relation to the carotid pulse as the time delay after the onset of systole is least with carotid pulse. Of the pulses mentioned, radial is the most delayed and timing cardiac events in relation to the radial pulse is likely to be most erroneous. Murmur of which of the following condition is best heard with the bell of the stethoscope? A. Mitral regurgitation, B. Tricuspid regurgitation due to pulmonary hypertension, C. Aortic regurgitation, D. Mitral stenosis. Correct answer D. Mitral stenosis. Murmur of mitral stenosis is low pitched and is best heard with the bell of the stethoscope. This murmur is often very localized and needs careful auscultation at the apex with the subject in the left lateral position and in expiration. The bell should be placed gently on the chest. If the bell is pressed too much, it will act like a diaphragm along with the skin underneath, which becomes tightly adherent on the bell. Other low-pitched sounds which are best heard with the bell are third and fourth heart sounds. Regurgitated murmurs mentioned above are high-pitched and best heard with the diaphragm of the stethoscope. All these lesions have high pressure gradient between the proximal and distal chambers, producing the high-pitched murmurs. Tricuspid regurgitation produces A. Giant A wave in jugular venous pulse, B. Giant C wave, C. Giant V wave, D. No significant change in jugular venous pulse. Correct answer C. Giant V wave. Systolic wave in the jugular venous pulse is the V wave. Hence, it becomes very prominent in tricuspid regurgitation as large quantity of blood enters the right atrium from the right ventricle. Prominent A wave is seen when there is obstruction to the tricuspid valve as in tricuspid stenosis. A wave can be prominent when the right ventricle becomes stiff due to hypertrophy as in pulmonary stenosis or pulmonary hypertension. In this situation, right atrium finds it more difficult to empty its content, becomes hypertrophied and contractions become more powerful. C waves in the right atrium occur due to closure of tricuspid valve at the onset of systole. In jugular venous pulse, it is due to the carotid artifact as systole pushes blood into the carotids. Difference between venous and arterial pulsations in the neck. Pick up the wrong statement. A. Venous pulse is better felt than seen. B. Height of venous column varies with position and respiration. C. Venous pulse has two peaks in each cardiac cycle. D. Venous column rises on abdominal compression. Correct answer A. Venous pulse is better felt than seen. Jugular venous pulse is better seen than felt. It can be obliterated by light compression. The rise in venous column with abdominal compression is called abdominojugular reflux or hepatojugular reflux. The rise is due to the sudden gush of blood from the abdominal venous system into the right atrium. It is more prominent and sustained when there is right heart failure. This is because right ventricle takes a little more time to deal with the extra preload. Tapping apex is a feature of A. Aortic stenosis, B. Mitral stenosis, C. Pulmonary stenosis, D. Tricuspid stenosis. Correct answer B. Mitral stenosis. Tapping apex is thought to be the palpable loud first heart sound. Pulmonary stenosis and tricuspid stenosis do not affect the character of the apex beat, being right-sided events. Aortic stenosis produces a heaving apex beat which is forceful and sustained due to the left ventricular hypertrophy. Dyskinetic apical pulsation can be seen in A. Mitral regurgitation, B. Ventricular septal defect, C. Atrial septal defect, D. Left ventricular aneurysm. Correct answer, left ventricular aneurysm. Dyskinetic region is one which bulges out when the rest of the ventricle contracts. The bulging out is usually seen a little above the apex, which is the lowermost and outermost point of definite cardiac impulse. Together, these two make a seesaw pulsation. Person presents with fever of 2 weeks and polyarthralgia. Which of the following findings will you specifically look for in the hands? A. Heberdens nodes, B. cyanosis, C. Splinter hemorrhages, D. Tendon xanthomas. Correct answer, C. Splinter hemorrhages. From the point of view of cardiovascular system, prolonged fever with polyarthralgia could be a manifestation of infective endocarditis. Rheumatic fever seldom presents as prolonged fever. Striking manifestation is usually polyarthritis in rheumatic fever. Heberdens nodes are seen in osteoarthritis. Cyanosis has no specific relation in this context, though rarely cyanotic heart disease can present with infective endocarditis. Tendon xanthomas are a feature of familial hypercholesterolemia and is not relevant in this situation. Other findings on the hand to look for in this person would be clubbing, Osler's nodes and Janeway lesions. Corkscrew appearance of retinal vessels is seen in A. Takayasu arthritis, B. coarctation of aorta, C. infective endocarditis, D. rheumatic fever. Correct answer, B. coarctation of aorta. Tortuous corkscrew-shaped retinal vessels are seen in coarctation of aorta. The fundus finding in Takayasu arthritis is wreath-like appearance. In fact, original description of the disorder was by Mikito Takayasu, an ophthalmologist, in 1908 as wreath-like arteriovenous anastomosis around the optic disc. This appearance occurs in a relatively late stage of the disease. Roth spots are seen on the retina in infective endocarditis. Palpable collaterals on the back and scapular region. A. Sussman sign, B. Dock's sign, C. De Musset sign, D. Corrigan sign. Correct answer, Sussman sign. The collaterals in the scapular region are better felt with the person bending forward. It is noted in coarctation of aorta due to collaterals between aortic branches arising above and below the obstruction. Dock sign is notching of the inferior border of the ribs, usually bilateral in ribs 3 to 8, noted in coarctation of aorta. De Musset sign is head bobbing, noted in severe aortic regurgitation. Corrigan sign is also noted in aortic regurgitation, dancing carotids. Here are a couple of references on Sussman sign. 30-year-old individual presents with edema of angles. He gives history of aspiration of fluid from the epigastric region 2 years back and medications for 6 months. Which of the following physical finding can link history and physical signs? A. Pulsus bigeminus, B. Clubbing, C. Systolic murmur at the apex, D. Kussmaul sign. Correct answer, D. Kussmaul sign. History is suggestive of aspiration of pericardial effusion, which is usually done from the epigastric route. It is usually done under fluoroscopic guidance in the cardiac catheterization laboratory. In an emergency, it can be done in the intensive care unit or emergency department with bedside echocardiographic guidance. A person with history of tuberculous pericardial effusion can sometimes present later with features of constrictive pericarditis. Kussmaul sign is a paradoxical inspiratory rise in jugular venous pressure seen in constrictive pericarditis. But the commonest cause of Kussmaul sign in a cardiac intensive care unit is likely to be right ventricular infarction. Other causes of severe right ventricular failure can also manifest a Kussmaul sign. 20-year-old female is referred for evaluation of a cardiac murmur. On general examination, she is very lean and has a high arched palate. She is likely to have A. Aortic root dilatation with aortic regurgitation, B. Mitral valve prolapse with mitral regurgitation, C. None of these are likely, D. Both A and B are possible. Correct answer. Both A and B are possible. A person with a gracile habitus and high arched palate could be having Marfan syndrome, mitral prolapse with mitral regurgitation, and aortic dilatation with aortic regurgitation can be associated with Marfan syndrome. Females with aortic root dilatation have a risk of development of aortic dissection during pregnancy and labor. 40-year-old person is found to have an ejection systolic murmur and an early diastolic murmur at the left sternal border. Character of his pulse is likely to be A. Slow rising, B. Bispherians, C. Pulsus paradoxus, D. Pulsus alternans. Correct answer B. Bispherians pulse. Ejection systolic murmur and early diastolic murmur at the left sternal border can occur in aortic regurgitation with aortic stenosis or severe aortic regurgitation with an additional systolic flow murmur. The combination can also occur in pulmonary stenosis with regurgitation, but that combination is unlikely to produce any characteristic pulse pattern. Bispherians pulse can occur in a combination of aortic stenosis with regurgitation as well as in severe aortic regurgitation. It has two peaks in systole. Slow rising pulse is seen in isolated severe aortic stenosis. Pulsus paradoxus is seen in cardiac tamponade and obstructive lung disease with wide swings in intrathoracic pressure during respiration. Pulsus alternans is seen in left ventricular failure. Thrill over the carotids may be felt in A. Mitral stenosis, B. Aortic stenosis, C. Mitral regurgitation, D. Pulmonary regurgitation. Correct answer B. Aortic stenosis. Murmur and thrill of severe aortic stenosis can reach the carotids from the aortic area where it is heard best. Murmur and thrill of mitral stenosis are often quite localized to the apex. Mitral regurgitation murmur radiates to the axilla and back as the left atrium is a posterior structure. Pick out the wrong statement about ischemic heart disease. A. Decreasing in developed countries. B. Increasing in South Asia. C. Preventive strategies are effective. D. None of the above. Correct answer D. None of the above. Effectiveness of preventive strategies is documented by the following incidence of ischemic heart disease in developed countries over the past 2 to 3 decades. At the same time, incidence has been increasing in developing countries due to poor adoption of lifestyle modifications for prevention of IHD. Normal pulmonary artery systolic pressure: A. 5 to 10 millimeters of mercury, B. 15 to 30 millimeters of mercury, C. 40 to 50 millimeters of mercury, D. 60 to 80 millimeters of mercury. Correct answer B. 15 to 30 millimeters of mercury. Pulmonary circulation is a low pressure circulation and the pressures are much lower than that of systemic circulation. An acute rise in systolic pressure to 50 millimeters of mercury can cause right heart failure in conditions like pulmonary embolism. But gradually rising pressures are better tolerated as the right ventricle has time to compensate by hypertrophy. In severe primary pulmonary hypertension and atrial septal defect with severe pulmonary hypertension, pulmonary pressures can even be suprasystemic. Structure which is not part of the left cardiac border on a normal chest X-ray PA view is A. Left pulmonary artery, B. Aortic knuckle, C. Left atrial appendage, D. Left ventricle. Correct answer A. Left pulmonary artery. Left pulmonary artery does not form part of the left heart border as it curves down posteriorly and is seen within the cardiac silhouette. Main pulmonary artery forms the left heart border just below the aortic knuckle. An enlarged left atrial appendage on the left border is called the third Mughal sign, the first and second Mughals being aortic knuckle and main pulmonary artery. Main pulmonary artery segment is usually not prominent on a normal chest X-ray and is called the pulmonary bay. If it bulges out, it indicates dilatation. Posterior descending coronary artery arises from the right coronary artery in % of cases. A. 10%, B. 90%, C. 30%, D. 50%. Correct answer B 90%. The artery which crosses the crux, that is the junction of atrioventricular and interventricular grooves posteriorly, is called the dominant coronary artery. Posterior descending coronary artery usually arises from the dominant coronary artery. Dominance has nothing to do with the amount of myocardium supplied by the vessel. It is always the left coronary artery which supplies the maximum mass of the left ventricle. AV nodal artery arises from the dominant coronary artery. Hence, the AV node is supplied by the AV nodal branch of the right coronary artery in 90% of cases. Sinus node is situated at A. Junction of the superior vena cava and right atrium, B. Junction of the right atrium and left atrium, C. Junction of inferior vena cava and right atrium, D. Junction of coronary sinus and right atrium. Correct answer A. Junction of the superior vena cava and right atrium. Sinus node is situated subepicardially in the upper part of the right atrium at its junction with the superior vena cava. Subepicardial location explains the common occurrence of sinus tachycardia in pericarditis due to the irritation of the sinus node by the inflamed pericardium. AV node is a subendocardial structure situated near the lower part of the right side of the interatrial septum and penetrates the annulus fibrosus. Annulus fibrosus electrically isolates the atria from the ventricles. If the inferior wall of the left ventricle along with the right ventricle is infarcted, the coronary artery occluded is A. Left anterior descending coronary artery, B. Left circumflex coronary artery, C. Right coronary artery, D. Posterior descending coronary artery. Correct answer C. Right coronary artery. Right ventricular branches arise from the proximal part of the right coronary artery. Inferior wall infarction without right ventricular infarction can occur with occlusion of the left circumflex coronary artery if it is the dominant artery supplying the posterior descending branch. Under resting conditions, activity of which of the following receptors predominate in the SA node? A. Beta 1, B. Beta 2, C. Muscarinic M1, D. Muscarinic M2. Correct answer Muscarinic M2. Under resting state, vagal activity through cholinergic muscarinic M2 receptors predominate in the SA node and AV node. During exercise and febrile states, sympathetic activity increases. Sympathetic beta 1 receptors are positive inotropic and chronotropic, while beta 2 receptors are located predominantly in the vascular smooth muscle and mediate vasodilatation. Which of the following is not a determinant of left ventricular preload? A. End diastolic volume, B. End diastolic pressure, C. Left atrial pressure, D. Aortic pressure. Correct answer D. Aortic pressure. Aortic pressure determines the left ventricular afterload. Left atrial pressure is the left ventricular filling pressure. Increase in preload enhances function in a normal heart. In a failing heart, initially increasing preload enhances function, but in advanced heart failure, overstretching of the myocardium is counterproductive. Decreasing afterload helps in heart failure by increasing the ventricular performance.